With that, I believe we have now gone live. We're being recorded and broadcast. And I am calling this meeting of the State Board of Elections to order. We are in visual mode, and I can see that I have 4 other board members in attendance, and therefore I'm declaring that there is a quorum present. Additions to the agenda. Does anyone have an addition to the agenda?
I believe we have a speaker, so that typically is under business.
Okay.
I think under the revised agenda, the number 11 says speaker.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I must have the older version as well. But that's okay. We got it. Anything else anybody noticed or has? Okay. Approval of the minutes. Did the minutes get distributed from our last meeting? You know, a couple, like 10 days ago. I don't think they did.
No, Donna, are you on the line?
So we'll approve those minutes at the next meeting.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. This is Donna Duncan. We sent board minutes out a couple weeks ago. So we can approve them later.
Well, if we've sent them out and the board's had a chance to review them, is everyone comfortable they've had a chance? I just sometimes get lost in minutes which aren't. If the board is comfortable that they've had an opportunity to review, then we can approve the minutes in this meeting. If anyone wishes to defer it to the next meeting, I'm fine with it. Members?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question for Donna. I assume you're referring to the minutes that you sent out on Sunday, September 13th. And that was for our meeting August 5th, 7th, 12th, and 19th?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if those are the ones you're referring to, I remember reading those. Yeah, I had no issues with them.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going back quickly here. Just want to check something. Okay. So the meetings, in the September 24th meeting, I believe that's when we approved the minutes for the meetings that Mr. Hogan and Ms. Duncan were just talking about. So question would be the minutes for the meeting of September 24th, and I do not believe that those have come out. So, so for that reason, I believe those are the minutes that would be next up for approval. We will defer that to the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, this is Tracy. I'm looking at our information from the 24th, and I don't believe that any minutes were approved at that meeting.
Okay. All right. I could have sworn that we did a slew of them at one point. How about on the 11th, Tracy? Did we approve them? Because some of those goes back a ways. Tracy?
I don't have that on the agenda from September 11th either. Let me look at the meeting before that.
All right. So Donna, which are the minutes that we would be addressing that have been sent out and which we're discussing for approval at this time?
I believe the proper course of action would be for me to clarify the sets of minutes to be approved, and if you are in agreement with that, I think.
Does any member object to that particular course of action? No objections. In which case we will take the course of action recommended by staff, and we will address all the minutes at the next meeting. And get that squared away. Okay, with that, we are at the administrator's report. Nikki, you gonna handle that?
Okay, sorry, forgot to mute. So good afternoon, everyone. Nikki Charlson. You have an electronic version of the full administrator's report. As we've been doing the last several weeks, we will just be highlighting certain sort of critical activities that are election preparation, and then be available, of course, to answer any questions that you have on any other topic in the agenda, in the administrator's report or not. So as Linda said, when we were before the Board of Public Works yesterday, election preparations are well underway, and we are, I think the quote is, ready to rock and roll. And so certainly that is in no part thanks to the diligent work of the local boards of elections and the staff at the state board. So we are well into our second week with the data processing center at the MBA. They have been diligent in learning how to process requests for mail-in ballots. And I think the number is over 86,000 applications have been processed there. So we are truly grateful for their help and the hospitality of MBA and the local boards of elections in supervising the work of those employees. Our online systems are busy. Lots of voters are using them to look up themselves, confirm their registration, register to vote, request a ballot, and then, of course, for those that asked for electronic ballot delivery, to receive their ballot this way. We saw a spike on September 22nd in the use of our online voter registration system. That, of course, was National Voter Registration Day, and lots of digital push for that effort, and we saw the resulting spike. So moving on to ballot production and mailing the ballots. So obviously our print house in Pennsylvania has been very busy printing something crazy like 19 million ballot sheets, and they are finishing up that work and delivery tomorrow. So then the local boards will have all that they need to finish packing their supplies for early voting for election day, issuing replacement ballots, nursing home visits, all of the ways that they distribute ballots. Our mail house has been equally busy printing ballot packets, and there's as of October 7th, the number of ballot packets that have been shipped. It's always going to be a little bit less than the number of ballot applications that we show on our website is being reported. That's just because there are either files waiting to get sent or files in the production process. So we are monitoring that difference and making sure that everything we send to the printer gets sent by the printer. But they are busy processing all of the requests that have been processed through October 6th. And so we are sending files regularly. They are producing them and getting them into the mail stream quickly as well. And then lastly, go ahead.
My question, if I could just hop back to the data processing center, when are we going to run that until, you know? Like a few days after the deadline, is that the goal?
Is Mary on the phone?
I am, Nikki.
Okay,
Good
great.
afternoon. This is Mary Wagner. It's kind of a fluid thing right now. We're certainly looking towards the 21st, but that possibly the 21st of October, possibly the 23rd, just to make sure that everybody is in their comfort zone. So it's very fluid.
Okay. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
And then the next sort of logistics mechanics that's ongoing now at the local boards is the pre-election testing of the equipment. We call that logic and accuracy testing, and that ensures that the machine has the ability to read all the ballots that it's supposed to read and that it's counting correctly. And so that is a task that the local boards of elections perform before each election on each unit that's being used. So it's a very time-consuming process, and they are in the midst of it, and they're about halfway done. There's lots of public awareness education going on. And you already heard from Donna, so she's available to answer any questions about that. But those, I believe, are the topics that we wanted to highlight for all of you now that we're, 20 odd days away from November 3rd.
Any questions or comments from any members of the board? Okay. With that, we'll move to the Assistant Attorney General's report. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board and the staff. Just 3 updates on cases to report this week. 2 of them are in the nature of just updates in the case schedule. In the NFB case, this is the litigation around the board's BMD policy. Discovery was scheduled to close on November 9th, which was going to cause a bit of a crunch right alongside the election taking place with depositions and things of that nature. And so we were able to negotiate and obtain from the court a 1 month extension on that deadline. So that kicks that out to December 9th. It allows a little bit more breathing room with regard to some of the depositions that need to happen before discovery ends. Same thing in the Fusaro matter. The Fusaro matter is the case that was originally about Mr. Fusaro obtaining a voter list and is now about the use restrictions on voter lists that are obtained by members of the public imposed by Maryland law. It's on appeal. We prevailed on summary judgment, but Mr. Fusaro filed his brief last month. Our brief would have been due this October 23rd. And just given the multitude of things that are going on right now, we obtained a 30-day extension in that case too, which just, again, gives us a little bit more breathing room to prepare and file that brief in the post-election time period. The last case that I have an update for is the Chung Soo Yi matter. This is the pro se matter filed by the Montgomery County resident about the propriety of several things associated with the 2018 election. We prevailed on summary judgment a couple months ago. He filed a motion for reconsideration that was denied in September. He has now filed notices of appeal in each of those cases. So those cases will go on, and I'll update the board as appropriate on it. But that is all I have for the update this month.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments by any of the members? All right. With that, next item on the agenda is approval of regulations. Who's going to handle that one?
I will, thank you. So in your meeting materials, you should have a single document with changes to 2 sections of COMAR. The first is a change to canvassing and the regulation that deals with the presence of board counsel. The proposed change requires that the board counsel be present for any post-election day canvassing where it looks like the outcome of provisional ballots or mail-in ballots will decide the outcome. So this just means they don't have to be present every single day of canvassing for the local boards before election day. Of course, you wouldn't know what the outcome could be at that point, and that they would be required to be present during a decision-making meeting like the board members are. So this just clarifies that the standard of being present when they can decide the outcome is after election day. I'm presenting this as an emergency change just for this election, and then we would revert back to the normal standard. The next provision on the sheet is both, I'm presenting as both an emergency change and a permanent change. So I don't know, Mr. Chairman, if you want to vote on them separately or you want me to proceed with the other one and do them together, but
I don't see any legal issue with doing them together.
okay.
We've defined one as emergency and defined the other one as permanent, and I think that is sufficient for everyone to be able to distinguish that we have voted. The fact that we do one vote for both of them, I don't think is going to make a difference. So,
Okay.
unless counsel steps in and tells me, no, he's not going to. Okay.
Okay. So the next one is a proposed change to early voting activities, regulation 05, which deals with ballots. So this is the one that I would be presenting as both an emergency change and a permanent change. We want this change to be effective as soon as possible, i.e. before the general election, but also have it be a permanent change. When we presented earlier, well, it was at the end of last year, they were finalized earlier this year, when we presented changes that allowed for the return of absentee ballots at polling places and vote centers, we missed this provision that said that you can't return voted ballots at early voting centers. So the board's action is clearly in other sections, clearly allows voters to return their voted ballot at either an early voting center or a polling place, or for this election, a vote center. And we just missed changing this language, which is why we want it to be both emergency and permanent. So this just makes sure that they can't issue absentee ballots at an early voting center, but they are allowed to receive them under other provisions. So those are the two regs presented to you today. I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions or comments by any member? Okay.
Just to clarify that, this second one, we are saying through this that you can return your mail-in ballot at any vote center, but you cannot receive one at just any vote center. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct, right. So there will be a container that voters can deposit their voted ballot into, but they cannot receive an absentee ballot or a mail-in ballot at an early voting center.
So it was just because the explanation says this proposed change removes the prohibition of receiving an absentee ballot at an early voting center. Is that what we mean to say there?
Well, receiving, right. So the current law, the current regulation says the poll workers can't receive a ballot. It's who's the subject of the sentence. So I apologize for the confusion. The way it's written, it says that a local board can't receive a voted ballot at an early voting center. We are saying, yes, you can, because another provision of regulation already authorizes it. I apologize for the confused subject.
That clarifies it. That's my only question. Thank you. I agree.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, with that in mind, then the chair would entertain a motion to approve the MR 330801.021 Board Council Emergency Change and the 331706.05 Ballots Emergency and Permanent Change to the regulations. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Moved, second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye? Aye.
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 Opposed? None? Motion carries. Any other
Mr.
regulations?
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just a kind of a clarifying question, because I've gotten this question from a couple people. If somebody wants to drop off their ballot in a ballot drop-off box, does it have to be in a ballot drop-off box in their county?
So no, it doesn't. The local boards will get it to the right place. The preference, of course, is to drop it off at a box in the county where the voter lives, but the local boards will move it if it happens.
Okay, that's basically what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. I've told people that, really you should drop it off in a ballot box in your county because that's who's going to be doing the counting. So, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Any other regulations that I'm not aware of? Okay. And the next item is number 7, November 3rd election discussion. The first item was members' remarks. I'm going to slide that down just a little bit and address B, C, and D. We're looking good on time before that. So I'd like to go to agenda item 7, well, on my agenda, 7B, request to deploy additional ballot marking devices. Do we have any? Okay. Down. Okay, next item after that is the approval of SBE policy 2020-03, contingency plan for the 2020 election. And I know that was distributed, and who's going to handle that one? Nikki?
I will, yeah. So you'll recall before every election cycle, we present a contingency plan for backups. These are the policies relating to backups for the voting system and electronic poll books. And 2 very diligent election directors pointed out that we might need to update this document because we're transitioning to election day vote centers. And so I thank Washington and Allegheny County for noticing that. So what you have before you is proposed revised policy with track changes turned on, so you can see the proposed changes, all of which relate to moving to vote centers on election day. So the fundamental change relates to the electronic poll books. And basically what this proposes is that we take the contingency policy for the electronic poll books for early voting, and we just apply it to election day, which means that every election day vote center needs to have a backup to the poll books, either a backup on a laptop or a paper precinct registered, the old fashioned way of printing it out and having that available at every election day vote center, so that if the electronic poll books for some reason do not work, that there's another process in place to immediately transition to check-in voters. So the substance of the policy isn't any different. It's what we've been doing for early voting for years. It's just taking it and applying it to election day because of our election day vote center model for this election. So again, this would just be for this election. We present it to you before every election cycle after we review it. So these changes would just be for this election.
Anyone questions or comments? Okay. And I note that has been distributed electronically. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve SBE policy 2020-03, contingency plans for the 2020 election. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is election observation visits. And I believe that
Oh, thank you, Chair. So in front of you is just requesting that 2 organizations currently be designated as watchers and enable representatives from those organizations to become watchers at the Maryland elections. They are the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe and the United States International Center for Electoral Support. Both have had missions in the past in Maryland and were fully vetted by the State Department. Designated individuals must follow all the same rules and procedures a challenger and watchers do in the state of Maryland, as well as following all COVID-19 protocols for entry into the United States and entry into any of the vote centers. I have a conference call with the OSCE organization tomorrow just to run through their individuals and to make sure that everything is going to be following protocols. Additionally, we'd like the board to reaffirm the delegation of the authority to designate challengers and watchers for future requests to the state administrator as they come in closer to election day. So, and again, we would, of course, follow the same sort of designation protocols. One, that the observers would have been approved by the State Department or any government agencies in which the state administrator is referred by the State Department. And two, that you, the members of the state board, are provided notice by email of said designation. This is the same policies that we've had in 16 and in 18.
Any questions or comments by members?
Yeah, I have had the opportunity to have a few of these people, both internationally and from domestic, that had come to Anne Arundel County when I showed them that board, and I thought it went very well. It was a very good, sharing of information, how things are done, and they were very respectful, very easy to work with. I see no problem with this.
And we have done this in the past, and I'm aware of that as well.
Yes.
As is Mr. Hogan. At a minimum, and for that matter, Ms. Howells. I don't know if Mr. Fun was around on the board at the time. No. Okay. Any other further questions or comments? All right, then the chair would be asking if I may have a motion to approve election observation visitors pursuant to the memorandum of October 7th, 2020 from Mr. DeMarinis with that caption title, specifying that we would be delegating the authority to the state administrator, that as a prerequisite to her exercising that authority, the visitors must be approved or by the Department of State or an agency which the Department of State has referred us to, and that the board members must be notified by email of the designation. May I have such a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Move second. Move in second. All those in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay,
Thank you.
motion.
Thank you.
Okay, we're at 2:30 now. Okay, I'm going to try and push forward a little bit more here. Is there any, I'm just asking the members' remarks, if there's any thing specific to the election the members want to raise, we can do that while we're sort of in this part of the agenda, but otherwise I'm going to ask to move the members, there's no objection, move it a little bit further down the agenda. Old business. Is there any old business that anyone wishes to raise?
Mr. Chairman, if we could, there is a short public part of the security briefing. I'm not sure where on which agenda we have, because I think you and I have different versions, but Art is here to do the public portion of that briefing with more to come in closed session.
We can do that right now.
Art, your mic is turned off.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just in brief, the SBE has been working very diligently with its IT vendors and public partners to assess and prepare SBE's cybersecurity infrastructure and operations for this election period. These preparations include assessment, testing, and strengthening of our core cybersecurity capabilities. Those include a secure infrastructure for our architecture, threat and vulnerability intelligence, detection and management, detection and analysis of potential cyber attacks, rapid response and remediation of any attempts to attack. And the SBE has also added some advanced social media defense services to help with impersonations, to help with misinformation and other types of social media attacks that may come up during the election. We have several partners during these efforts. They include DHS and the FBI, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, as well as the Maryland Coordination and Analysis Fusion Center. I should also say we've participated in a number of tabletop exercises over the past several months to help test and prepare our teams for potential events. These were sponsored by DHS, by the CISA, Secret Service, Microsoft. Our own internal teams have had some along with our data center, and we can talk more about that in closed session.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. And with that, thank you, Nikki, for reminding me. The old business, I believe there was no old business. We touched on that. New business, we have a speaker. Is the speaker ready to speak? Does anyone have any new business first? Okay. With that being said, is the speaker prepared to go?
Yes, I am.
Okay, sir, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman Hogan, members of the board, Simone, and Nikki Charlson. I can't say enough about the 10 million and 3 things that you all have accomplished over the last 6 months in preparing us for and administering these elections. And I'm eternally grateful for your guidance. I'm asked to speak today on a very narrow topic regarding canvassing. It came up during the primary election, the topic, and also has been a point of discussion since my first day on a board, which was election day 2006, and that regards marks, identifying marks on ballots. What constitutes them and how should they be treated? Currently, we've received during the primary and now during the general, a directive that would indicate that a voter who makes a mistake on a ballot should make another choice and then put their initials next to that, and that should be accepted by local boards as a valid ballot, and that the initials would be the indication of their vote. I see a clear conflict with the rejection of absentee ballot directions under 11302, where if a voter puts an identifying mark on a ballot, that should disqualify the ballot. And I believe that should be, for a ballot that can't otherwise be cured or corrected, that should be our policy. If the voter were to do the same thing in a vote center, the ballot would go into the scanner, it would be kicked out as having multiple votes in a race that weren't permitted. And the voter would be directed to a table to get another ballot, or they'd be directed to go ahead and override their choice. They're permitted to cure that, just as we are now curing because of our early canvasses, and our canvas in Baltimore County starts Monday. We're enabled to cure the lack of a signature on an oath by contacting the voter, doing a number of different things that permit the voter to provide that signature so that their vote can be counted. And that is our goal, is to count all of the legitimate votes. So I'm suggesting that we change that recommendation of accepting a ballot with an identifying mark, initials, and put it into the class of ballots that we attempt to cure at the local board level by contacting the voter and finding a way for them to either come to a local board office and get a correction ballot, or for us to provide them with a ballot and also get their, what would be a spoiled ballot, get that back from them so that votes get counted, but that we're not accepting votes that have the identifying marks initials. I sent a letter, and I'm sure you've all seen it. These are not checks. These are ballots. They're not personal accounts where your banker would know could tell whether or not your initials were correct. So that's the core of why I wanted to speak to you. I'd like the policy changed from accepting what's with initials to exclude those and find a cure for them. There was one aside that came into that. Anne Arundel County this week had people going door to door harvesting ballots. It's a really old trick to collect ballots, take them and revote them. It's been going on for decades, if not into the 19th century, where it first became common in my studies. Right now, we've had post office boxes also broken into. We don't know if those ballots were taken, but it would be a simple thing for someone with less than good intent to take those ballots, open them, make a change, put initials next to it that match the signature on the ballot, and put it back into the system. I want to prevent people from losing their vote by having someone change it. I also want to prevent the time that's consumed by boards and staff in trying to decide if those are legitimate marks on a ballot or not legitimate marks. And that's it. I'm on your side. I'm here with you. I know that we in Baltimore County spent a lot of time discussing whether it was really an identifying mark or not an identifying mark. And it just is to no end when we can easily cure it by having the voter give us the information that's correct. The directions that all of us received, if we got mail-in ballots, say, don't make changes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, as I'm sure we all do. Are there any other speakers? Hearing none? Okay. With that, I'd now like to address members' remarks in the event that anyone has anything. Let me note for those who are watching us, which I think is a sort of sense of amazement, that audience share has grown dramatically over the course of the last 2 months. This is the last scheduled meeting. It would be the last scheduled meeting of the state board prior to November 3rd. As I believe I've said in other meetings, it's never a good thing if the state board has to meet. It always means, not always, it's likelier than not that it means something like that. So it is my fervent hope that we will not be meeting again until after November the 3rd. So this is the last opportunity that we have as members to address the local boards, the staff, the election judges, and the public at large. And it may be that there are members that would wish to do that. And so I want to give them an opportunity to do that. As I usually do, I try to do it in reverse order of seniority. And with that, Mr. Velt, do you have any comments you'd like to make at this time?
Sorry, my mic was off. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little government guy. And so I'm usually the one critical of government agencies and the amount of staff and things like that. And I can tell you that having seen behind the curtain at both working in Anne Arundel County and now at the state board, the amount of work and the amount of hours and the effort that is put forth by state staff, especially because that's where I am now, but also just a shout out to the local boards. It is a mountain of work. And then it's added to with all this impossible situation that has presented itself before in the primary and the general. I mean, I have regularly traded emails with staff on weekends and know and appreciate how much work is put into this, how much diligence I see from the state, everybody I have worked with at the state staff truly cares. This is a difficult business because you don't get a bunch of practice runs, and everybody expects perfection, even in the middle of an emergency. And I just am very, very, very impressed. Again, even with the forethought, with the forward thinking from regulations to procedures and how to pull this off in a difficult situation. And I'm just unbelievably impressed with everybody I work with. And I'm absolutely, completely thankful and completely respect every single person that I work with on the staff. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Mr. Fun?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would have to second what Mr. Volp said, except for one thing. I don't email at night to the staff, and I'm sure they're thankful for that. But I am quite impressed with the time, the energy that they put into it. And I know many times they would like to grab us by the neck and choke us or by the collar and shake us at times, but they refrain from doing that. And they continue to do their job. And I was greatly impressed with the situation that we have. This election is unlike any that I'm sure any of them have had to deal with because of the COVID virus situation and the protection of life. And I was quite impressed. They took on the same concern I had, which was the safety of the voters first, without denying them the right to vote. And I think everybody has to look at that. And I don't want to not also commend the local boards of elections. Sometimes it may appear that we're at cross odds, but I don't think we are, because I'm sure all of us are concerned about the safe, healthy health and welfare of the voters, as well as the right to have people vote. And looking at the news, I look at situations in other states, and you know, Maryland is a model. And I am awed with the security, the diligence, the perfection, and the attention to detail that Maryland has that a lot of states don't. And I just want to say thank you to the state staff, as well as thank you to the local boards. And we have a unique system here in Maryland, and it would be great if the other states could model that. They could learn from us. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to work with you during this time.
Thank you, Mr. Fung. Ms. House? Do you have anything you want to say?
No, can you hear me? Oh, there. Okay, I couldn't unmute. No, I'll just say I agree with what my two colleagues have said, but I don't have any other issues to bring up.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hogan, do you have anything?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think I can improve on Mr. Velt's or Mr. Fun's, Ms. Howe's eloquence comments, but I've been involved in elections as a campaign volunteer, as a candidate, as a state senator. I've always thought Maryland elections were very well run. I never, ever in all those years had a full appreciation of what goes in to running an election. in a normal year, less a worldwide pandemic. Yeah, I can't express enough admiration, appreciation, thanks to all of the staff at the State Board of Elections, at the local boards of elections, and to remind folks of an analogy the chairman used a number of weeks ago. The train has left the station. We just need to get the train to the next destination on time. I'm about as confident as you can get that this train is loaded up as needed and will arrive at its destination on time, safely, securely, efficiently. So yeah, my deep appreciation and admiration to everyone that has been involved in this. Mr. Chairman, I have one other comment I just feel compelled to make because it's such a unique time. And as I said, I've always been impressed with Maryland elections. I think we have a tradition of efficient, accurate, secure elections and a high degree of civility around our elections. And I fully expect that, expect it and pray for that to remain throughout this, through November 3rd or whenever it's done. But I do feel compelled, just because of the situation we're in, just to remind everybody, not so much people on this board, but at local boards and bizarrely enough, apparently a lot of people are tuning into our board meetings. I'm not sure why, but they are. So to remind people that Maryland has a law in place that protects voters from intimidation. And I want everyone to know that Maryland election law 16-201 states that a person may not influence or attempt to influence a voter's voting decision through the use of force, threat, menace, intimidation, bribery, reward, or offer of reward. They may not influence or attempt to influence a voter's decision whether to go to the polls to cast a vote through the use of fraud, force, threat, menace, intimidation, bribery, reward, or offer of reward. And they may not engage in conduct that results or has the intent to result in the denial or abridgment of the right of any citizen of the United States to vote on account of race, color, or disability. As I said, we have a history of good elections, civil elections, and I think that will continue through this one, but these are unique times, and I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. The probably one of the most momentous events of the 20th century, the invasion of Normandy. There are a few photographs that are still shown regularly, and a very handful, 3 or 4. One of them is the Supreme Commander, Dwight Eisenhower, standing talking with a group of paratroopers. And they would be flying out that night. The landing troops had already left. They were at sea. And the person in charge of the whole thing was standing and talking with these fellows, the people that he'd made decisions about and who were going to engage in carrying out those decisions. And the reason he was there was because after he made his final decision in the early hours that morning that the invasion would take place, he had almost nothing to do. And he went down and he spent time with the troops. And that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're doing it virtually. And we're spending time with you out there. to tell you that we do believe in you. We have confidence in you. We trust you. We've been listening to all the information that's come back up to us, listening to the election directors as they would talk to us about their plans, their answers to questions. And now it's going into your hands fully. Yours at the state board, yours at the local boards, the election directors and staff, elections judges. We're at the end game. And I have no doubt from everything that I have heard is that you're tired. In some ways, we are as well. It hasn't been physically draining on us, but I know that it's been emotionally draining. This is the part where we say to you, in any struggle, and this is a struggle between people and process, but in any struggle, the side that prevails is the side that refuses to yield. That when exhausted keeps going, when tired keeps going. Not to the extent in what I'm saying of working 20 hours a day and then driving home at night and running the risk of endangering yourself or others on the highways. But there's moments when you just are tired. Don't settle for that. You've done so well. Take it through. Many, many years ago, I engaged in track and field. Actually, I did pole vaulting, but there were the runners, and the counsel to the runners, the guidance, the coaching was, don't stop running. Don't slow down when you see the finish line. Everybody does it. It's amazing. And it's one of the coaching things when you're working with track and field. You can't look at the finish line and get the psychology that it's close. Keep running. Run through the tape as fast as you can. And remember, if we didn't think you could do this, we would never have allowed the process to go the direction it did. I have told many people, I've said it here, I've said it in interviews, and I've said it in personal conversations. I have, and I am not alone in this amongst the board. We have confidence that you can and will do this job well. And we all thank you. With that, I'm going to move over to the one item here that I want to make sure that Mr. Hogan is involved with. He has something that's coming up, and that is the scheduling of the next meeting. I jumped over one item. I'll go back to it. I would propose that the next meeting be scheduled for, give me a moment. Okay, because hang on. December 4th. I knew I wrote it down somewhere. Friday, December 4th. It'd be a 2 p.m. meeting. That would be, it's sort of on the borderline November, December, and it would be our traditional combination meeting of November and December. Obviously, if there is some reason for the board to meet at any time between now and December 4th, the administrator knows that I will call a meeting without hesitation as soon as I can have 4 people, myself included. So with that, how do we feel about December 4th at 2 p.m.
Mr. Chair, that's a Friday, correct?
Say that again?
That is a Friday.
It is a Friday. It work for everybody?
It's for me.
Everybody's nodding. Okay. We are now set for 2 o'clock on Friday, December the 4th for our next meeting. If there's something that comes up that we need to do before then, I have little doubt that the administrator will reach out and ask for a meeting. Okay, we're now scheduled. And the second to last item in the open meeting is disclosure of campaign contributions. Does anyone have any campaign contributions to disclose? No, okay, I have some. Okay, to read this on. RNC 400, these are in dollars. RNC 425, NRCC 250, NRSC 335, RSLC, that's Republican State Leadership Committee, 100, Ernst for Senate 250, McSally for Senate 430, James for Senate 130, McConnell for Senate 300, Perdue for Senate 300, Scott for Senate 150, Collins for Senate 100, Trump for President 400, NRC and Trump jointly 145, Nunes for Congress 100, and McCarthy for Congress 2 in this particular phase. All right, next item is we're going to move to a closed session, assuming the board approves it. We will not be returning back to an open session. We're going to meet with legal counsel and receive a security briefing. So with that being said, there is no reason that anyone needs to be concerned about us coming back into meeting. The board will now consider whether to meet in closed session to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice as permitted by section 3, 305, B7, and 8 of the general provisions article. Meeting in closed session will allow the members of the board to seek and obtain legal advice with board counsel without waiver of the attorney-client privilege and obtain information from staff about pending or potential litigation. 2, discuss public security as permitted by section 3305B10, since a public discussion would constitute a risk to the public or to public security. Meeting in closed sessions allows members to discuss security in the election process without introducing additional risk to the process. 2, discuss network architecture and security of election network as permitted by section 3305B15 of the general provisions article. Meeting in closed session allows members to discuss the security of information systems without introducing additional risks to the process. May I have a meeting to meet in closed session? Motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, aye? Aye.
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 Opposed? None. Motion having passed, the board will meet in closed session in accordance with exemptions B7, B8, B10, and B15 of section 3305 of the Open Meetings Act. It is now 2 minutes before 3. I propose meeting in closed session at 3:10, which is acceptable to the board. And with that, I will see you all there, or almost all of them. And we'll meet in closed session. With that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn the open session. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning the open session, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No opposition, and therefore the declaration passes, and this open session is adjourned. 3:10 and closed meeting. See you all there.